After O.J. Simpson's death, questions soon began to surface. While many are wondering about the details of his cancer diagnosis, others have been wondering what his relationship with his kids was really like. Between 1968 and 1977, O.J. and his first wife, Marguerite L. Whitley, welcomed 2 daughters and a son into their lives, Arnelle, Jason, and Aaron. Tragically, the couple lost their daughter Erin in a swimming pool accident in 1979, nearly 2 years after she was born. The same year Erin died, the couple called it quits. It wouldn't be until several years later that O.J. would tie the knot with Nicole Brown in 1985, who he was later accused of murdering, along with her friend Ron Goldman. In perhaps one of the most controversial verdicts of all time, he was found not guilty.
Back in the courtroom, Simpson smiled, and his attorneys were obviously pleased and relieved. The prosecution team sat stone-faced.
While their relationship is now forever tied to the murder case, the couple did have 2 children, Sydney Brooke and Justin Ryan. All of the former football player's children were by his side when he died from cancer at the age of 76. His family shared, on April 10th, our father, Orenthal James Simpson, succumbed to his battle with cancer. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren. When O.J. Simpson became the prime suspect in Nicole Brown Simpson's murder, many wondered whether his relationship with his kids, specifically Sydney and Justin, would shift. Sydney and Justin were Nicole and O.J.'s only biological kids, and during his trial, Nicole's parents retained custody. Once he was acquitted, Simpson gained access to them, but the issue of custody continued as the Brown family fought to keep Simpson away. He wasn't happy about having to convince the legal system that his kids were okay in his care. In a statement to the Associated Press, O.J. said, "The bottom line is there are people out there who think their opinion of me is going to supersede the well-being of my kids, and my only interest is the well-being of my kids." Justin and Sydney even wrote emotional letters to convince the judge they'd be better off staying with their father. Years later, Nicole's family and Simpson developed a better relationship, and ultimately, the football star regained custody of his kids. As they grew up, Justin and Sydney unsurprisingly chose to lead more private lives. While their relationship with their father may be complex, their aunt, Tanya Brown, told Radar Online in 2019 that they will always have a special place in their heart for their dad. She said, "They will always love their dad. I choose to respect that." Simpson was under the spotlight for years, but he didn't want the same for his kids. So he tried to keep his kids out of the media to protect them. He spoke publicly about the infamous murder case in the Fox special, O.J., The Lost Confession, but refused to talk about his kids. When asked about the possible long-term effects Nicole's murder would have on their lives, he said,
"I don't like talking about my kids. I got to make it clear that, and my kids have told me, Dad, you said you weren't going to talk about it, don't talk about it."
O.J. kept this mindset while in prison for a botched robbery attempt that occurred in 2007. When trying to get an early release in 2013, he told the parole board why his children hadn't shown up to support him. He said, "Understand that I have worked diligently to keep my kids out of the media over the years, to the point today where most people wouldn't recognize my kids other than my oldest daughter. And even though they all wanted to come here, I was told a lot of media was going to be around, so I asked them to write a letter." Arnelle Simpson ended up writing a letter on behalf of her and her 3 siblings, but it wasn't enough to earn her father an early release. In 2012, the National Enquirer published an article in which an unnamed source claimed that Simpson was furious with his daughter for not making his mortgage payments while he was in prison. The source went on to purport that she figured he was never going to be released and was living a life of excess and luxury while the bank prepared to foreclose on his home. Other publications, including the Daily Mail, quoted the article as if it were fact. However, despite the bit about the impending foreclosure being true, it's hard to say if there was validity to any of the other more salacious claims. What contradicts these claims more than anything else is not just that Arnelle wrote the aforementioned letter on his behalf in 2013, but also how she pleaded to the board for his release in person in July of 2017. She said,
"My experience with him is that he's like my best friend and my rock."
After tearing up and taking a brief pause, she went on to say, "And as a family, we recognize he's not the perfect man, but he's clearly a man and a father who's done his best to behave in a way that speaks to his overall nature and character, which is always to be positive no matter what." Her plea, in addition to Simpson's good behavior behind bars, ultimately resulted in him being released on October 1st, 2017. While Simpson went on to live a more quiet life after his release, he did still take the time to regularly update his 870,000-plus followers on X, formerly Twitter, usually in the form of selfie videos. This was how the public first found out that he'd been battling cancer in May of 2023. He said in a video,
"In recent years, really recent years, I unfortunately caught cancer."
He didn't specify what type of cancer it was, but he went on to elaborate that he'd made it through his chemo treatments and was doing fine. We didn't hear anything more about it until February 2024, when news broke that he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer and was undergoing chemotherapy treatment once again. That same day, he posted a video in which he denied the speculation that he was dealing with health issues, specifically the rumor that he was in hospice. He said,
"Hospice? Hospice? You talking about hospice?" No, I'm not in any hospice.
However, nearly 2 months after sharing his health update on social media, Simpson died at the age of 76. His family confirmed that his death was the result of his cancer diagnosis. It goes without saying that people were shocked to see Simpson pass so suddenly, as details have been scarce. It was later learned that his son Justin had been taking care of him while he faced his health crisis. A source told Radar Online that Justin moved from Florida to Las Vegas, where his father resided, to be near him as he dealt with his treatments. Not only did he make the big move, but Justin reportedly left his real estate business behind to be with his dad. Justin hasn't been in the public eye too much, but it's clear that he cared deeply for his father.